Rob Smith is in the house now. He is a veteran, author of Always a Soldier, Service, Sacrifice, and Coming Out as America's Favorite Black Gay Republican. And he's a commentator, of course, and contributor to The First. Rob, great to have you on, man.
What's going on, Buck? How you doing?
So do you see the Don Lemon stuff? Because I got to say, that Don Lemon sounds like an interesting guy to have a conversation with about maybe what's going on in the country and how we could try to make things actually better for all people in America. What do you think?
Well, it's funny. I followed Don Lemon for a long time. And when that Don Lemon was on CNN and that Don Lemon was saying things that were very much common sense based, he was attacked by the left at the time. A lot of Black Twitter called him the same things that they call Black conservatives today. They called him Uncle Tom. They called him Coon. They called him sellout. They called him all of that stuff because back in 2013, he was saying that Black people are in control of our own destinies and that there are things that we can do to ensure that we have better lives for ourselves. Now, 7 years later, he's on the woke train. Woke Twitter loves him because racism is always the problem in his mind when it comes to African Americans. And it's really quite sad how far he's kind of fallen since then. But the question to me is, which one is the real Don Lemon? Was the Don Lemon that we saw in 2013 that seemed pretty reasonable, that had some fairly conservative-leaning values, was that the real one? Or is this sort of like anti-Trump resistance woke warrior the real Don? I actually think that Don Lemon in 2013, that was the real Don Lemon.
Do you come across, I mean, Rob, I know you're outspoken on this and you're tweeting about it and sharing your thoughts. Do you come across white liberals who try to tell you that because of your views on this, you're not allowed to actually have those views? Do you know what I mean? Does that happen?
Oh, no, it's a thing. It happens all the time. The thing about white liberals feel like they own and control Black voices. And they also get a sense of paternalism in this idea that Black people go about life being so heavily oppressed. And generally, when they come across a Black person that doesn't really have that mentality, I'm not an oppressed person. America is a great country. I could not be as successful as I am in America anywhere else in the world. And they don't quite know what to do with that. So that's an issue. And you'll really see on the internet, Nina Turner, who was a very outspoken Black female Bernie Sanders surrogate, she got into a Twitter beef with Deborah Messing from Will and Grace, a white liberal Hollywood actress, about Kanye running for president. And Deborah Messing was kind of explaining to her how, well, Kanye West running for president, that's going to take Black votes away from Biden, and he's doing this to help Trump and all that stuff. And Nina Turner had to say, well, hold on, time out. We're both on the left or whatever, but you don't own Black votes. Black votes have to be earned. And there's this idea among white liberals that they own Black voices, that they own Black votes, that they own Black perspectives. And that has to get checked very, very often.
There have been some efforts to get more Black support in terms of votes for President Trump. There's some organizations, right, Blexit, and then which is a movement, right, and then there's been the collaboration, even with some Democrats and some prominent voices from the celebrity community with the Trump administration on the First Step Act. Rob, it feels like Republicans go through this, but there's usually not a whole lot of change when the actual votes are cast as to where the Black community puts its support. Now, I don't think anyone's expecting there to be a lot of change, but do you think that that the Trump administration has made some inroads? Because if the Trump administration was even able to get, I think what was maybe 8% of the Black vote in the last election, and we're able to double that, let's say, that would be catastrophic for the Democrats' chances. That would be obviously also an amazing feat for Trump to pull off. Do you think there's any momentum with this?
Well, I do think that there is. And I'll tell you, I see a very concentrated effort to go after the Black vote from the Trump administration. And it's not so much, trust us, we're going to do this. They're not talking about what they are going to do. They're talking about what they have done. They're talking about the First Step Act. They're talking about permanently funding HBCUs. They're talking about, like, at one point, we had the lowest ever Black unemployment in history. Trump is talking a lot about school choice. So I think that when you focus on actual tangibles and actual results, you do make inroads in the community. Now, I don't really know how much coronavirus and the corresponding tank of the economy has affected some of that messaging. But I will tell you from what I'm seeing, and I really do feel like there is a way that they can make inroads in November. And you also have to look at what the left is doing right now. Look at Black entertainers, like even Diddy goes out and he tweeted the Black vote is up for grabs. He said the Black vote is not owned by the left. So basically, you have a lot of African Americans, even on the left, who are becoming frustrated with seeing the same sort of okey doke from Democrats every election season. It's we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. And they never do it. And the difference with this administration right now is Trump is saying, look at these things that I have done and we can do more. I think that that's a very powerful message. I think that that's a message that hasn't come from another Republican administration, at least not in my lifetime. And I think it's something that's going to be very tangible for the vote in November.
Speaking of Rob Smith, author of Always a Soldier, Service, Sacrifice, and Coming Out as America's Favorite Black Gay Republican. Rob's a contributor to The First, where he is my colleague. Rob, Kanye. What's going on here? Just the question could just be Kanye. But, you know, in this era, I mean, Donald Trump is president. So when people say to me, Kanye West says he's going to run for president, I would normally say, yeah, right, whatever. I don't know if one can do that. You know, Jesse Ventura was governor of Minnesota. Al Franken's a senator from Minnesota. Donald Trump is president. Crazy stuff happens, right? I mean, with things that nobody would expect. So what's going on is this just so we talk about Kanye? Or do you think that there's a part of him that thinks maybe he could actually run?
You know, I think that there is obviously, you know, he's not going to be on the ballot in 2020. It's much too late for that. Even though he says that he's going to run, I don't know if he could be a spoiler or write-in candidate. But the interesting thing about the Kanye thing, and in fact, I have a chapter on Kanye West in this book, Always a Soldier. It's called The Kanye Effect. Now, I wrote that back when Kanye was super MAGA and said that he was going to vote for Trump. But the interesting thing about what he said in the Forbes interview is that he says over and over and over again, he said, if Trump wasn't there, I would run as a Republican. But since Trump is there, I'm going to run as an independent. He says things like Black people should not be beholden to the Democrat Party. He says things like he tweeted and deleted something that was pro-life. So there's a lot of different ideas and information going on there. And even if Kanye West is not pro-Trump, even if he's not voting for Trump, even if he's not MAGA, like that's fine. He is opening up an entire new conversation when it comes to African Americans and politics. For so long, Blacks have voted for Democrats at upwards of 90%. Now you have an unassailable, uncancelable cultural icon that is taking the hits to say, Black people don't have to be Democrats, and he's not apologizing for it. So I think that it's absolutely fascinating. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. And maybe when 2024, when he, you know, does the paperwork and actually can get on the ballot, like we will see him running in the Republican primary. I think that would be interesting.
Do you think that there is going to be a conversation that happens among leaders in the Black community about, you know, we're seeing this spike in violence right now, and in New York, 100% of the people who have been shot, there's been this huge, 100% of them are Black, who have been shot and killed in New York City, and there's been this huge 40% or so spike in shootings and homicides. So, you know, at what point do you think the voices within the Black community, leaders within the Black community, start to speak up and just say, look, maybe we're on board for the rest of the Democrat Party's agenda, but this stuff has actually got to stop, and it's urgent, and it's now?
Well, I think that, you know, we are hearing a lot of voices of a lot of leaders in the Black community. I think that when we talk about Black leaders, we so often think about the left. We think about the Al Sharptons, and we think about the Colin Kaepernicks and all those who get so much attention. There are so many leaders in the Black community that are on the conservative side, like Pastor Daryl Scott, like Jack Brewer, like a lot of people that are having this conversation, like Larry Elder, you know what I mean? So these people are leaders of the Black community too. They just haven't been anointed by white liberals to speak on behalf of African Americans. So that conversation is having. Now, the question is, are these Black liberal leaders, quote unquote leaders, are they actually going to have the conversation with both sides of the aisle to come together? Or are they just going to keep on with the race scam and the race hustle and say that every single problem that plagues the African American community nowadays is about white racism? Because I do not believe that is true. We know that that is not true. So are these two factions going to work together, or are they just going to keep arguing and sniping with each other? Now, for me, when I look at the Black conservative leaders, they are more than willing and more than open to work across the aisle. Like that's what we do. But when it comes to the Black leaders on the left, they are so into this idea that Black conservatives are coons or Uncle Toms or self-hating or don't care about the Black community or anything like that, that they keep on having one portion of the conversation. So if the Black leaders on the left are having one portion of the conversation and Black leaders on the right are having another portion of the conversation, at a certain point, some people are going to have to come together to figure out some options and some solutions here. So that's what I hope happens.
Rob Smith, everybody, check out his book, Always a Soldier, and watch him on The First. Rob, thanks for your service, for your book, and for hanging out with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Buck.
Producer Mark, guess what I did? I watched Hamilton on Disney Plus. And I know we talked about this a little bit. You liked it, and everyone is entitled to their opinion. So I will not ask you to defend. You've stated your opinion, which is that it's 1 out of 10. I'll just ask you that. 1 out of 10, what would you give it?
An 8.
An 8. Okay. You like it. You put it. That's like in the very good category. Not the best.
It's not my favorite show I've ever seen, but
it's very good. Okay. All right. So producer Mark likes it. And the good thing for producer Mark on this particular issue is that it has made $1 billion, and it is, I think, the most successful Broadway play, certainly in a first run of all time. And it's a cultural phenomenon. And I know someone who paid people to stand in line for her so that she could see this 8 times. I am not kidding, okay? And paying the tickets on the secondary market. I think that's what we're not supposed to say scalpers anymore, right? So we say secondary market. Is that the way this is now? The tickets out there were up to $1,000 for just not even the best tickets, just pretty good tickets. It was so expensive. Everybody's going to see it. And I'm thinking, what exactly is the... Okay. So I watched it last night. And this may not come as a surprise to you. Oh, but before I tell you my take on it, I was just curious. So I put out a poll last night on Twitter to see what people said about this one. And it was... the Broadway play Hamilton is the best show ever, good but not great. So I feel like producer Mark is probably maybe in that category, good but not great, or maybe very good, we could say. So in between those two. Meh, just okay, and awful, it's all hype. We got over 7,000 votes, and 57% said awful, it's all hype. 8% said it's the best show ever. This is based on my Twitter audience. I thought it was completely unwatchable. I thought it was so bad. Okay, let me tell you why I think it's so bad. I've been waiting. I did not critique it until I saw it. I've been waiting because everyone's talking about it. Everyone's to go see it. I remember Vice President Pence went, and that caused a huge thing. And I've been waiting to say anything about it until I actually was weighing in on something that I had experienced myself. Now, look, maybe a few things here. If you see it live in the Broadway theater, that's a better experience. And I'll take, because I watched it on Disney Plus, obviously, like a lot of people are. So here are my specific criticisms of it. Let's start with this. Lin-Manuel Miranda can't sing. The guy can't sing. He's in a Broadway musical. and he's singing, and he's bad at it. So I want to know why that's like okay. That's a part for me. That's an issue, right? If you're watching, if we're watching a hockey game, and I step out there on the ice and I can't skate, even if all the other players around me are really good and everything else, kind of ruins it that there's some guy who's like falling down all the time because he can't skate. Lin-Manuel Miranda is not a good singer at all, not even a little bit. It's not even close. Okay. What else? The music. Now, I went into this, and I'm trying to look at this as a piece of art and not as a political statement of some kind. I'm looking at this purely as entertainment. And I know that I'm so many people love it, and maybe there are other, I think that Bruce Springsteen and Billy Joel are both super overrated, and every time I say that, I get all this hate email that I don't know what I'm talking about. So people
bite your tongue.
Yeah, exactly. Producer Mark disagrees with me on that too. So I understand that maybe there's something wrong with me. I completely accept that.
100%.
That possibility. Right. Fair enough. But since we're analyzing this a little bit, so I'm watching the Hamilton and I'm thinking, this music, it's just not. And look, I understand that there's a lot of hip hop, a lot of rapping, and people would say, "Oh, well, do you like?" I actually grew up listening to a lot of hip hop music, and probably would surprise people how much I listen to and know about hip hop music from the '90s. Not from, I don't listen to it a lot now, contemporary hip hop, but I know '90s hip hop well, and have some appreciation for it. I think, and still listen to it a little bit, but used to listen to it a lot. Because that was just very common in my peer group in New York. Everybody was listening to hip hop music. This is in the era of Biggie and Tupac and earlier days of Jay-Z and so on and so forth. Nas, Method Man. I can see it. The Wu-Tang. We talk about this all day. The rapping is not good, and the music is not memorable. And the storyline is kind of just like somebody read the Wikipedia entry for Alexander Hamilton and picked out a couple things and like mashed it all together. I wanted to come on the show now and tell you that I was pleasantly surprised by how much it was better than I thought it would be. Producer Mark liked it. I was hoping he told me to watch Miracle about the ice hockey thing with the Russians. And I did, and it was very, very good. I just watched this thing, and I hated it. I couldn't. It was terrible. I'm like, I can't believe that people like this so much, spent so much money to see it, and we all pretend like this is some great, great achievement of art and culture. I give it 2 thumbs way down, way down.
It's time for roll call.
Roll call. Producer Mark, I know you're just not surprised by my cultural and artistic takes anymore. It's okay. You can say.
In one segment, you said you hated Hamilton, Billy Joel, and Bruce Springsteen.
I know.
Are you sure you're not a communist?
It's a fair question to ask considering the tastes of a lot of folks out there, but I tried. I really did. I really tried. And the whole thing to me was, it's just, there's so many decisions, and I'm not even getting into the politics of it, which a lot of other people are, view it as anyway. And now it's getting in trouble for it not being like left wing enough, or not dealing with the issue of slavery enough. I don't even know why they want to cancel, but they want to cancel it for some reason.
Do you like other musicals?
I saw the Book of Mormon, and it was well done for what it was. I thought it was a little bit more heavy-handed than it needed to be, and it was okay. I'm trying to think.
Like the two my favorites that I've seen on Broadway are Come From Away and Dear Evan Hansen.
I haven't seen either of those.
Those are phenomenal.
I took the Snow Princess to see. It's a long story, but I took her to see Frozen on Broadway, which was a very expensive way of seeing what we could have just watched in a better version on the Disney cartoon at home.
That's one of the ones not coming back when Broadway opens up again.
That's not coming back.
Yeah, they canceled it officially.
It was not a good play, or not a good musical, I should say. Not good.
You
Not
just
good.
don't see good shows. I have a friend who's very big into Broadway. Whenever I want to see a show, I just text him, what should I see?
Yeah, maybe I should do it. I did see many years ago Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which I can't even describe on radio really what the play's about without people going, oh my gosh. Needless to say, I did not like that. And it was particularly interesting when the lead actor, who was the guy from, what's the serial killer show where he's a good serial killer? Dexter.
Oh, Dexter, yep.
The guy from Dexter was the lead actor, and he jumped out into the crowd and put a big wet kiss on the lips of the guy sitting next to me. So I missed getting a smooch from that guy by like one seat.
Oh, there's no way the guy next to you wasn't part of the show.
Yeah, he was part of the show, dude.
You
I
never
think,
once considered that he was a plant?
I mean, he seemed pretty startled, but I don't know, man. It was.
There is no way he just went and kissed some random person in the audience. Come on.
Okay. I mean, maybe. I'm just telling you that happened. I mean, look, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. But I was a little. Whoa, hey, this is a spicy show. I've seen. What else have I? Oh, I saw Moulin Rouge. That was fun. So I'll say that. That was entertaining.
It just seems to me you're not seeing the right shows.
Isn't Dear Evan Hansen very sad?
Yes.
I don't like sad things.
That's very good. Come From Away is very sad as well.
Anything, and I don't like sad things. I just can't handle them, man. Anything where someone tells me that like the dog dies in any kind of a movie, or I just can't. Life is sad enough. I don't know. I don't like the sad stuff.
But the music is good.
Maybe I'll check that out. Well, anyway, producer Mark likes it. For those of you that like Hamilton in the audience, he likes it, so he's with you, and that's probably going to be a lot of you. But I personally think that it's just anyway. You know how I feel about Hamilton now. It took me years. I've been waiting to weigh in on this one, and I just think that it was, you know what I think, really, really bad. All right, we have roll call to get to, and I got a little delayed, but we'll do it. Oh, don't forget, producer Mark's favorite homework: listening to all of your voicemail when you call in. 844-900-2825. 844-900-BUCK. That's the way to do it. Please tell producer Mark what you think about the show. Ask questions. Keep it to less than a minute, if you would, please. We'll expand it less than a minute, but really, it's got to be less than a minute. Okay, that's. Yeah. I think we've been saying less than 30 seconds, and they've been like 3 minutes. So let's say less than a minute. But it's really, I'm going to tell producer Mark, if it goes more than 60 seconds, unless you're giving us the secret formula to Coca-Cola or something, he's going to press delete.
And if you're giving us the secret formula to Coca-Cola, I'm not going to air that. I'm going to steal it.
Good point. Why would you even do that? Yeah. Producer Mark will be lighting his cigars with $100 bills, riding around in his G6, maybe having room for the rest of the Freedom Hut crew. We'll see. Maybe. All right. Andrew. Remember, Facebook.com/Buck Sexton to write it on Facebook, or TeamBuck@iHeartMedia.com. Andrew's up here. Hey, Buck, I live in a liberal part of Cleveland. My neighbor across the street is very right-wing like me. I mentioned your name and that you've been on Tucker Carlson's show. He didn't remember your name, but when I said he's the one with the great swoop, his eyes lit up and he knew exactly who you were. I added another one to the Freedom Hut. Shields high. Well, thank you, Andrew. The swoop is something of a trademark. So, although I was thinking about going to get an official haircut today. Like, go get a professional human being to cut my hair so that it's a little, because it does get hot in the summer to carry the swoop around.
I mean, even when you get a haircut, you still have the swoop. It's just not as big.
Yeah, it's like a tiny swoop. It's a summer swoop, which is smaller. Whereas producer Mark goes with the aerodynamic look all the time. What are you at, like a 2 on the clippers, a 3?
A 2, yeah.
2, yeah, he keeps it.
It's hot out.
Yeah, it's not even a high and tight. It's just your haircut's just tight.
Yeah. I wear hats a lot too, so it's easier to wear a hat with a buzz cut.
Oh, look at producer Mark showing off that his head is actually normal, so he can wear hats, unlike some of us.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I'll never buy you a hat, that's for sure.
I will take a photo one day. People always like, oh, come on, I have a big head too. I'm like, you don't understand. If I put on a baseball cap you'll be like, oh my gosh, what has happened to you? It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. The head's too big. I look ridiculous. And what ends up happening is I have to like pull it back so that the front of my hair kind of shows. And then it looks like I don't know how to wear a baseball hat. You know, it's almost like the equivalent. It's like the hat equivalent of having a plumber's crack. You know, it's like you can't get your belt to tighten up enough so that your butt crack doesn't show when you're, plumber's crack.
Yeah, that's the story of my life.
Yeah.
Subtitle of my biography.
My hat is like a plumber's crack?
No, I have a plumber's crack.
Yeah. You know, it happens. It happens. All right.
The title is "Give Me a Sec," the Buck Sexton story.
That's true. Give me a sec. That's what I need to get the show going. Alex, not sure if you addressed this yet. What's your opinion on Kanye? Is he done with Trump, or is he trying to pull black voters away from Biden to help Trump? Well, Alex, we did speak to our friend Rob Smith about this. I think the Kanye thing is going to be nothing. That's what I honestly think. Rob seems to pretty much agree with that. You know, you can't totally count out that Kanye would do some kind of write-in campaign or something, but that then feels really like it is a publicity stunt and not anything that's really going to have any sway with the electoral college or anything like that. So we'll see. But that's where I think it's going to be a whole lot of nothing would be my guess. Dave. Hey, Buck. Shields high, brother. I'm an avid listener and fan of the show. I've been hearing you talk about how we need to take a stand, and God knows I agree with you. However, something occurred to me with some of these firings you've been seeing. An LA Galaxy soccer player was fired because of a tweet his wife sent without his knowledge. I thought about that, and while I'm certainly willing to put my opinion out there and deal with the blowback, my wife is a healthcare professional who has worked very hard at her career. I feel like the left is taking hostages now. If they pointed their gun at me, I'd die on my feet. But if I thought they'd pointed at her, I'd be more likely to kneel. Something to think about, really. Anyway, keep up the great work. Dave, wow, I do remember that story. And what you raise is a very important issue, I have to say. I agree with you. I agree with you that that's a concern. And that's a very different thing. When you're taking a risk to yourself or your career by speaking out. And remember, I also tell you, if you really think you're going to get big blowback on something and you can stomach dealing with what you got to deal with, what do I always say? Don't charge the machine gun nests without a plan to take them. Like, don't just get out there and get mowed down because you think that that's some act of glory on this culture war issue, when really you're just giving the left another notch on the belt, so to speak, right? They're just going to see this as body count. So don't do that. As I've been telling you, one way to safely be in the fight is to support. If you like this show, support this show. Check out our sponsors, share the podcast with people, spread the word. And, if there are other shows you like, you can do that too, although that's obviously not as helpful for the American Republic as helping this show. But that's okay. You can help those other shows a little bit if you want to, but help this show more. But no, really, that's what needs to be a part of this calculation. What can you do without taking too much by way of risk to yourself, but also the way of risk to your loved ones? And I'm surprised that there wasn't more outrage and there wasn't more of a conservative focus on that case, because, yeah, if you can be fired for what someone else tweets, but, remember, I think it was the stepmother of one of the officers charged with murder in Atlanta. Remember, not the George Floyd case. That was really bad with that cop. I'm not talking about that case. I'm talking about the Atlanta getting the taser gun fired at them officers. One of those, the cop who is the one who actually shot Rayshard Brooks, I think it was his stepmother, was fired from her job. She didn't do anything. Had nothing to do with anything. Fired from her job. Too much of a risk, they think, to their brand to have a relative of a cop wrongfully accused of murder. So this is the society we live in now. It's real. You gotta be cautious. I don't want people taking losses. I don't want our side taking hits for no reason. More roll call. Remember, Facebook.com/BuckSexton. Please follow our Facebook page if you have not already. Please follow us. We post the Buck Brief there now. We have tweets that go up there, all kinds of good stuff. And allows you to write in for roll call, which is obviously super fun because then producer Mark gets to read everything you write. So there you go. John, Buck, I'm a Vietnam vet, and I hate firecrackers. They sound too much like small arms fire. Back in January, my neighbors had some firecrackers left over from New Year's Eve and set them off the next morning around 7 a.m. I was still in bed and without truly waking up, dove out of bed onto the floor. I'm 73. I hurt my neck and back and my right wrist. I know other vets who have the same reaction to fireworks. I'm able to watch the large fireworks displays that cities have, but these random, unexpected pops are like being sent back into combat. You get over it in a few minutes, but I can see having a heart attack. Well, John, I'm so sorry to hear that, man. Please, take care of yourself. And I can imagine, especially as a Vietnam vet who saw combat and was in small arms firefights, that would possibly trigger some PTSD. So I had friends who came back from Iraq, and for them, one thing that I knew one person very well who, when the phone would ring, a phone ring sound, because for some reason it reminded her of incoming mortar rounds. Not the mortars, but the siren that they would play. So she would jump and get really tense. And so I know that's very real. John, be cautious, take care of yourself, and thank you for raising this for other folks out there who may have the same problem. Kristen, LOL, the fireworks talk from producer Mark is hilarious. Get off my lawn and take those dag-nabbit blasted fireworks with you. So producer Mark has somebody who agrees with him that fireworks are not good. Actually, a couple of people.
You agree with me.
Yeah, of course.
It's very rare we agree.
Yeah, no, fireworks, I'm not into it at all. I don't understand. Yeah. Do you remember that? Did you ever, I might be too old for you to, well, you might be too young is what I'm really saying. Or, there were these things that people used, they were like it was like almost like a Q-tip that you'd throw on the ground that it would make a little...
Oh, yeah, you get them at state fairs?
Yeah.
Yes. I used to play with those when I was a kid.
It's like snap, crackle, pop things you throw. I don't know what they're called,
Yeah, I forget what they're called, but they're like the little white Q-tip type things that you just throw on the ground. They make a loud noise.
Make a little pop noise.
Yeah.
I remember playing with a kid. It was so much easier to entertain kids. Now they need like Call of Duty 7, Super Modern Warfare. Back in the day, I'll just tell you, back in the day, people like me had to make do with slap bracelets. People don't even know what that is probably. Slap bracelets, bubble yum tape, and those little pop things you throw at the floor.
Yeah. Maybe a yo-yo.
Yeah, that's right, a yo-yo. I remember hearing once that a yo-yo, I think it's an urban legend that a yo-yo started out as a weapon in Southeast Asia. I find that hard to believe, though.
Those things, the heavy ones, they could be used as a weapon, sure. I don't know if that was their intended purpose, but yeah, I could see it.
Sounds like an urban legend to me, but who knows? Ronald, Buck, I live at Lake of the Ozarks and listen to you using iHeartRadio on KFAB Omaha. Awesome. The thing that drew me to you was you analyze foreign affairs. You've gotten away from this. I do understand you're currently talking about the lead story, but there are other things happening in the world. For example, tensions between China and India. Can you at least dedicate some time each night or one day a week to discuss foreign affairs? Hey, Ronald, man, first of all, thank you so much for listening. Great to have you as part of the team. And sure, there hasn't been a lot of foreign affairs news, but I will. How about I'll dive into what's going on with China, India, U.S.-China relations tomorrow. I'll do that because we haven't been. Look, I am a foreign policy guy by trade, by background, but it hasn't been as big, especially in the COVID era. It just hasn't been something. No one cares about Iran right now. I don't know what else to say. So that doesn't, though, apply to everything. Clearly, China, there are some stories, the foreign policy stories that really do matter to us. So, Ronald, a very worthwhile and appreciated point. Thank you very much for writing in. I think that's going to be it for we got a lot. Producer Mark, make sure these other roll calls go in tomorrow, if you would, please. That's going to be it for the show today. Please like and share the Buck Brief, which will go up on Facebook, and make sure you actually watch the Buck Brief, because if you only watch for a second, that doesn't really count. We'll be back tomorrow. Shields high.